The On the Water podcast is brought to you by Guidesley. Guidesley is more than another booking platform. They help connect anglers with guides to create a unique fishing experience on the water. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the On the Water podcast. I'm Jimmy Fee, this is Anthony DeiCicchi, and our guest for this episode is Captain Rob Taylor.
Hey-o.
Rob, man, I guess I met you probably, I want to say it was Striper Fest 2008. Was that the year you won Angler of the Year?
It very well could be. I don't know. I'm turning 40 in a few days, and the first thing to go is memory, but I think so.
Yeah, so I met Rob through our Striper Cup tournament. He was always one of the top anglers back then. And Angler of the Year used to operate as the 5 biggest fish somebody caught between May, the cumulative weight of those 5 big fish. And Cheech, of course, you guys fished together for the first time last week, right?
Yeah,
just a week or so
we did.
Ago.
It was an experience to say the least.
Noah's Ark had nothing on us in that little bass raider.
Nothing.
Yeah, so my favorite description from these guys, I was out in my kayak. These guys were in the Bass Raider, which is a small plastic, kind of a crawdad type boat powered by a Minn Kota trolling motor. And Rob said it felt like the trolling motor was on, like the whole boat was vibrating. But it was Cheech who dressed for the calendar instead of the weather. Just absolutely shivering and shaking the entire boat.
He literally said, he goes, Cheech, I'm not complaining because I think your shivering right now is adding more action to my swim bait. And that's when I knew, man, I'm cold.
Yep, and that wind was so strong, I'm still picking pine needles out of places when we came ashore.
Yeah, right now it's pretty much the heart of the pre-spawn largemouth bass bite. And Rob, you're known for like a lot of different fishing, but I bet a lot of people don't know how deep you get into the largemouth swim bait fishing.
Addicted.
Yeah.
Literally addicted.
I mean, just this morning you caught...
We had 7 fish between, 4.9 and 7 pounds. It was a very good bite this morning.
That's better than Cheech's last 3 seasons combined.
Yeah, but to be fair, remember, I've also been, I was on a stretch of nothingness throwing big baits. I was about to just go back to the Senko and just give it all up.
I'm still on that stretch right now.
It is like you would definitely, if you stuck with a Senko all season and that's all you threw, I swear I'd catch more big fish over the course of the year.
Probably.
But there's something about like that hunting the big ones. You know what I mean? Taking a little chance out of it, weeding out. I mean, I still catch plenty of small fish on the swim baits, on the big swim baits.
I literally caught a fish that was less than 2 inches bigger than the swim bait I was throwing the other night. It's crazy.
But there is something about it when you have that 8-inch hut and you're just rolling it, and all of a sudden it's just like, dunk,
That pump is so addictive.
and then the line just goes, whoop, and you're like,
So do you wait on the... I miss so many fish on the HUD, and she just tried to explain to me how to hook them. I think you've tried, but it's almost... He describes it like when you get a hit on an eel, you like give it a second.
I give him a second, because I normally, if I feel like it's a hit, I stop doing anything and look at the line to see if it actually moves or if it just was a rock. Because a lot of times, once you hit a rock, once you stop and let off of it, you'll just lose feeling, or you'll just have like that little tension where like the bait is just kind of hung on a rock. So I freeze instantly anyway, and then I just hope it does something else. I'm like, do something. And then if it doesn't, I'm like, okay, there's nothing there. Keep going back.
So you'll actually wait to feel the line tighten up after that initial hit before swinging.
Except, though, sometimes, like I said this morning, when I actually saw one eat it and it looked like it went in his mouth, and I was like, ah! And I just watched it go right out, just launched
Like
right out of his mouth.
The bait's so soft though, like they won't just drop it. They won't automatically spit it.
Although I will say sometimes I have had a few times where I feel like maybe they had it for too long and the bait gets folded, and when you go to jack them, the tail gets hooked in the top hook, and you get the old donut HUD,
HUD
comes
donut.
back to you, and you're like, that sucked.
It's like I used to get the eel donuts all the time.
Right. And they normally happen after a little drag, too, because the fish just continues to swim, and you're like, oh, and then dunk, you're like, what the?
As soon as they open their mouth, it just pops right out.
That's right.
So the idea is like you're waiting for it to turn almost, right? So you can...
Yeah, that's actually the first time I've heard it explained like that. I started doing that, and I get too excited. So my answer to not being able to wait to see what the line does was to slowly reel through it like it didn't happen.
Reel through the bite,
And
yeah.
as soon as the rod starts to load, I stick them. And that has increased my hookup ratio. But I still think they nip at it sometimes. They swipe at it. And the best thing about fishing a big bait, I think, is every little touch, whether it was from like 1.25 pounds, you just think it's the biggest bass that has ever
It has to
touched a bait that you've been fishing, and you beat yourself up over every swing and miss. It makes it fun for the people that like to, to beat themselves up over stuff like that.
Every fish I missed was 8 pounds.
Yeah, exactly,
That's just how that goes.
So just to back up real quick, a Huddleston is it's a big soft plastic bait. It looks exactly like a trout, but you like them in perch patterns. Cheech and I, in our ponds here on the Cape, we fish a lot of herring patterns. I like the olive over white one. That's like a kind of a
Generic.
catch-all
Golden,
bait fish pattern.
perch, and something blue.
But it has a boot foot tail, and it's different than the usual paddle tail. It's actually it's like flares out, and it will swim at an extremely slow retrieve.
It's the vortex tail, Jimmy, they call it. The vortex.
At the lingo. But I think I like the wake bait better. But I don't know. I was all into soft baits, but the wake bait, I miss way fewer fish. I don't have the patience to hook the fish on the HUDs, I think is my problem.
I tend to I've come full circle to the wake bait because it's so visual. You know when you're moving fish, you know when they're reacting to your bait. And another thing that's awesome about it, which can be a curse, is you can kind of gauge the size of a fish that comes up for a wake bait eat, where you can't really tell with a HUD.
I don't know. I think of it like some of the biggest hits I've had on wake baits. It's like same with the big hits on stripers, where there's no fanfare. All of a sudden, it just kind of disappears.
Rod loads, and you're like, I didn't even hear anything, and it's next thing you know, it's a 5-pound fish that just sucked it in.
But you guys, I know, are looking for redemption tonight. After we finish this podcast.
I got my redemption this morning.
He's looking for redemption. I'm looking for redemption. I was
looking
out
for
in the
guidance.
podcast.
I'm looking for guidance. Stay on brand here.
So I didn't want to get too lost down in largemouth bass, but it's just that time of year I can't help but talk about it. But Rob, one of your main targets throughout the season, spring and fall, is tautog. And I know in Rhode Island, you guys you'd consider it a win with the regulations?
It was at least something. I mean, we would have liked to decrease the bag limit a little bit. I think it might have moved the needle, but maybe not. There could be something else. I mean, I think that what happened is they did pass so that there is a slot limit for tog, but most of the captains anyway, I think already, and a lot of people in general are releasing those bigger fish. So, I mean, it's good to have something on the books just because I think it'll bring some awareness to it. And, we got to, because, I mean, you still want to have people be able to take fish home. But, I would just love to somehow develop a trophy fishery. I mean, maybe the answer is going up on the minimum size limit. So instead of having a 16-inch fish, maybe just make it an 18-inch fish, and then that fish has a couple more years to spawn. I mean, I think that at least we brought it to the forefront, so people will be paying attention to it more, and then we can kind of see where the science goes. I mean, really, if you think about in Rhode Island, how fluke fishing has been. I mean, they took a big reduction on sea bass already as well, and then stripers, in the situation they're in, the last thing is tog, and it's really received more pressure than it ever has. I mean,
they've become very popular over the last few years, and that's guys are using lighter tackle, catching with jigs,
right?
And they become a fish that people used to think of just as a meat fish. You're going out, and here's the last thing you can catch before winter to really fill the cooler, and they see how great they are as a sport fish, how strong they are.
It's a formidable opponent. I mean, those really big tog, I mean, as soon as you hook that, it's like, it's 70-30 tog versus you. And then if you can get them up, at least 5-6 feet up the bottom, now you're maybe at 50-50, and you still could lose them and have them go back down. I mean, they just shred. They shred things.
Now, just to back up, what were the tog regulations last year? What are they going to be this year?
So last year they were in the spring. It was 3-fish spring, ends at the last day of May, opens April 1st, and then it'll open again at 3-fish in August, and then October 15th it will go to 5-fish. Now none of that is going to change. It's just that you can now only have one fish that is over 21 inches in your bag. So essentially, there is a small slot And I guess what that does too is, if you're going to release a lot of the big fish, but let's say you have one that isn't, you're unable to release it, well, at least you still have the option to keep that. Or if you catch the new state or world record, I mean, you still have the option to harvest that fish as well. So
yeah, it leaves the trophy option on the table.
So, I mean, who knows whether it really will have an impact on the fishery? I mean, I think maybe just might get people thinking and talking about it. Because there has been in the fall just a big increase in tog fishing just because the fall striper run, it's not what it used to be. So the stripers really start drying up come October. So then it's all tog. And like you said, now with new gear, new electronics, I mean, people having trolling motors, so maybe people that couldn't anchor before, inability to anchor for whatever reason, whether it's physical or anything.
Become a lot more accessible.
It becomes a lot more accessible. Exactly.
Yeah, and I've seen that shifting pressure in the past. I've seen it for striped bass. Fluke regulations years ago were getting really restrictive to the point that guys, New York and New Jersey could only keep 2 fish or 3 fish at an extremely high size limit. And people who wanted to take a fish home, it was too tough to get a fluke, so they shifted their efforts to striped bass. So that's what we're seeing now with tog. Striper fall run hasn't been as good as it has in years past. Guys want to keep fishing, shifting the efforts over to tog. Right. And Rhode Island's become a destination for tog. I mean, you how many of your clients come from New Jersey and New York?
Almost 90% of them.
That many?
That many. Yep. Well, they got all the good days. They booked them up. And let me tell you, those guys, all my clients that come from there, are very good fishermen because they are just patient. They're not spoiled like we are up in Rhode Island, where it's like, if it's down there for like more than, 20 seconds, you're already bouncing around. You're like, why didn't I get a bite? This is weird. They will work that bait. They'll be able to fool some of those larger tog by having that patience and line control.
So it cuts the other way too, because I've gotten fat and happy tog fishing up here in Rhode Island and southern Massachusetts. When I go back to Jersey, back home to tog fish, we already filmed an at the rail of me on the Norma K, not catching a keeper tog. I went back on another headboat trip in Jersey in December and was the only one that didn't catch. I think I caught 1 keeper and everybody else did a lot better. But you need to be a whole nother level of dialed in there because the fish are so pressured that when you go out, when I fish with you for tog, it's I can get away with not being the best tog fisherman.
Yeah, the jig hits the bottom and they swim away with it. You go, the line's moving.
I got one. Yeah, tog have become one of my favorite fish to target. I didn't have them where I grew up, and I fell in love with them. Once I started getting to the point where you could catch keepers, and even the shorts feel like a great fish to tug on. So it's a fun fish, and there's a like mad scientist element to it to get it dialed in. It took me some time to figure it out, but love affair with tog. Absolutely love them. Love to eat them. They're great. But the one thing I will say, as a relatively new species, if you will, it seems to have gotten to the point where there's a more of a much quicker social conservation-minded movement than any species I've ever seen that's come into popularity or been in popularity. Where, for me personally, I release all big females in the spring. I know they're spawning. That's just something that I do on my boat, and I put some really big ones back. But that's become something that's like a war cry amongst tog fishermen. Oh, yeah. And you don't really, I can't recall many other species where kind of this early in their rise of popularity, there's been that kind of a conservation-minded awareness amongst, the people that may have been doing it or even newly doing it, like I've seen with tog, which is a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, regardless of regulations, is that it's just really up to the sportsmen to just take it upon themselves and do it. Like a lot of my clients, they take their fair share tog, which they should, but you know what? They also do a ton to release and handle the rest of the tog that they're going to let go with care. I got groups of anglers that are just very good about that. So, having the new law, whether it moves the needle or not, maybe it just brings it into the forefront. But I think at the end of the day, it's just really up to us. We'll just have to do as we see fit and kind of.
Yeah, we're the stewards of the resource.
That's right.
So how heavy is a 21-inch tog about? I
want to say it's probably 8 or 9 pounds.
Anyway. That heavy?
Yeah.
Man, they're built like bricks.
they are built like bricks. I mean, like anything, right? It could depend on time of year, what they're eating, you know. I mean, if you look at a tog in August compared to a tog in October, I mean, your fillets go from, you know, inches thicker. I mean, they definitely put on some of that winter weight.
Oh, it's cool. I've never noticed that, but never thought about that with tog, but it makes sense. I mean, bluefin tuna do it. I'm sure tog really ramp up their feeding in the fall. And what's the tog you're hunting on your boat? What size? What's the next size you need to jump to?
I mean, you know, we've seen our fair share of 15 and 16 pounders. I mean, this year was like the year of heartbreaks. I mean, I had some very good anglers definitely bust off some really big fish, and now it's nothing that they did. It was just, you know, the fish won. I will say there were a few fish that were hooked on jigs with lighter leader that definitely helped take the toll. I mean, we had one fish that he was able to get it up off the bottom, and I got to look at it, you know, but in the tide, the way it scoped out, I mean, it was at least 18, you know, 17, 18. But as he's trying to bring it to the boat, you know, I see the jig sticking out of its face, but I also can look at that 30-pound fluoro, and it, you know, it looks like tinsel from a Christmas tree. And I'm like, this isn't, you know, I needed a 35-foot extension on my net, and we would have had a chance. You know, in fact, if I had been on spot lock that day with the Minn Kota and not on the anchor, I would have just taken it off and just backed in and
Drifted back
tried
on him.
to loosen the pressure and scoop it, see if we could get it.
So what is the turning point in the tog fight? So I've just hooked the tog. At what point?
You never know. You never know. Sometimes they give up. Sometimes I've seen them come within reach of the net and go all the way back down.
Oh, man.
You know, I've seen some really big tog all of a sudden go swimming off towards the bow. Only that one because that was Steve's tog that was massive, and a gray seal grabbed it. So that was interesting.
Oh,
That would have been a teener-sized tog, too. I mean, it was probably like 14, 15-pound. And
that's a bad way to lose a big tog.
yeah, that's
It's a bad way to lose anything, but especially The On the Water podcast is brought to you by Guidesley. Are you looking to book a fishing trip with a renowned, hand-picked expert? Guidesley has the best guides and the best destinations. Whether you've never fished before or you're a regular, take the guesswork out of it and allow their guides to put you on the best catch of your life. Search and book your dream trip now on Guidesley.com or download the app Guidesley Fishing Trips. Dude, so after tog season, so your you will start tog fishing in the spring?
Yeah, it's the first thing we'll go for, you know. It's like the opener. After pre-spawn largemouth, we can then focus on tog. I mean, you know, there's small stripers and holdovers that you could be chasing, but I kind of keep that out of my mind. And, you know, I really just want to get back with my friends from the fall that I left, see how they're doing, you know, just check up on them as they're coming back inshore. And then, so we'll tog fish pretty much up until, you know, once we get into past Mother's Day, we start having some, you know, bigger stripers start arriving. So we might shift our focus a little bit.
And your early striper fishing efforts are up in the bay in Narragansett?
They're up in the bay, yep. You know, sometimes if we can hit them, you know, mid-bay going in, but normally, you know, it seems like they come in on a tide cycle or two overnight, and they just, you know, for whatever reason, they're very hard to catch. Sometimes you can catch them on the South County beaches. When I was a surf rat, you know, I'd go chunking squid, you know, down Deep Hole Way or something like that early May, and there was always someone that would get a, you know, mid-30, even 40-pounder as they were coming by. But then, you know, once they come around that corner in Point Judith and get that warmer water coming out, they shoot straight up the bay. So we'll head up there and try to find them kicking around bunker schools and, you know, usual haunts. There's certain places, too, where they will stage, you know, and we'll target them that way.
So the bunker numbers in the bay have been, they maintained? You see, are they growing?
No, it seems like they've been maintaining, you know. I mean, you know, we do have a bunker fishery in the bay, but it's very, very managed by spotter plane. There has to be a certain amount of fish there. In fact, if anything, you know, some people may look at like the purse seiners for bunker and think it's not good, but it's more of a tool. The way that they use it in Rhode Island is by having such a strict quota. It really helps eliminate having a big fish kill, which can happen where if there's too much bunker and it all goes up into Providence, you know, with water quality and other things, you know, you could have a big die-off. So
you hear about that in the Peconic Bay in Long Island. Yeah.
Right. So what they do is, you know, they'll try to keep those numbers. You know, there has to be an allotted amount of bunker in the bay before they can even open up the purse seine category.
And it's like percentage, right? They say like this.
Yeah,
is that right?
There's a quota. It's a pound quota, and and once they reach it, it's over. But it's very strict. I mean, they regulate it pretty heavy. I mean, I know some people will see them and they're picking off the obvious schools, but I mean, there's tons of bunker. And in the spring we have herring and squid. I mean, it's crazy. I've seen huge balls of herring and squid. You just look up. If you see a bunch of herring gulls flying up high, something afoot. It's a little filth afoot underneath those things.
The squid bite in Narragansett, it's pretty cool. Calamari Causeway. And
Oh, yeah. Yep. So, I mean, that's it. Everything seems to flood into the bay. So it's just a smorgasbord, if you will.
And that bass fishing, when does that peak? If it starts around Mother's Day?
A lot of it depends. As far as peak in the bay, it can depend on water temperature. I mean, there's years where, those, there'll be bass out front, but there'll be bass in the bay upwards of until July. And I'm sure there's still other bass that kind of never move. They may fish a little deeper, but a lot of the focus then turns out to the open ocean, so we'll start fishing towards, end of June. That's when we'll start fishing, Block or, Point Judith, Newport, Sconnet area. We'll start fishing out front, because it's a shorter ride for me via boat, being based out of Newport, but just because then the fish have set up there as well. So it's a little more consistent.
But before we leave the bay, you do slow trolling live bunkers, one of your kind of bread and butter tactics there?
Yep. We just filmed that show. That was last year when you had my crazy wild man hair and just chucking pogies out.
It's much different now.
Yep. I mean, it's just got longer. That's all that happened. So, I mean, this year I'm sure there'll be, I might have to wear a helmet out there. I think everybody will be throwing bunker. But
we got a great response on that video. But yeah, I'd done that in Florida for albies, like taking the pilchard.
Yeah.
Cheech and I did that where you just throw them behind the boat. It never occurred to me that was something you could bring up here and do for striped bass. Like, it seems like you've got the clear warm water in Florida, but versus the cold green water in Narragansett Bay. But that's why you do what I do. You do and I do what I do.
You've probably done it even before then. I mean, when you were a kid, you never went to one of those trout tournaments where they had the stocked trout and you get all the small pebbles in your hand.
Oh yeah, the gravel.
And then as soon as they shoot the gun and you can start fishing, you start throwing the gravel in because they think it's
the dirtiest trick in the book, dude.
The pellet dispenser. Yeah. That's it. You can chum up anything, and just live chums. It's a little more exciting. It's fun.
That was one of those moments that I grew up primarily fishing live bunker for stripers in Boston Harbor. That was one of those moments where it was like, what is wrong with me? How have I never thought of that? That looked like just an awesome time, and it was one of those things where I'm like, I can't believe I never did that.
The first time it happened, it kind of caught me with my pants down. I've been yelling at Rob on his boat, I think 3 times badly, maybe only 2. The first time was last June when he threw the bunker and he goes, get ready to cast the dock. I'm going to throw this and a fish is going to come up to eat it. I did not unhook the dock.
I don't
from
think
the
you
first
believed
guide.
It was going to happen.
I was a little
quick.
bit of a doubting Thomas. And the bunker hits the water. It like fritters around for a little bit. Then all of a sudden it's like boom, boom. And it was one bunker you threw and there were multiple stripers chasing it. And you go, what are you doing?
You were enjoying watching the bunker get crushed, which happens.
Yeah.
It happens. It's
You're caught
paralyzing.
watching.
And then you cast short.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like 30 feet in front of the actual fish.
But if you look on camera, I did keep my cool. I didn't yell. I just said, "See, I told you."
It was like a gentle slap on the wrist, not like when we were giant tuna fishing.
Oh, those are always the heaviest handed slaps, Jimmy.
And then you go, "What are you doing?" I was caught being a spectator, and I was supposed to be clearing the other line.
Yeah.
And that was.
But then we had to talk you off the ledge giant fishing, because if you remember, I had to explain to you, it's just a fish, Jimmy. Just reel it in. You were so wound up, so tight.
I was very nervous, dude.
I tried to make you laugh.
I have a long history of losing giant tuna, so
It happens. There's nothing you could do about it. All you just reel it in. It's just a fish.
Speaking of losing fish, give us some examples of fish that haunt you. As a fisherman, that's something that you just can never get rid of when those encounters happen.
I was fishing block with, younger clients, and we had hooked into a fish. There was no one out. It was gnarly swell, very rainy.
You were out there? That's a surprise.
Well, this was when we had gone from the 28 BHM, so it was fine. It was a much bigger boat. And I had been on some really big fish. In fact, I think we had fished a few days before, and Earl had been with me and Durkin, and we had got 2 58-pounders that night. Oof. On consecutive drifts. And then we had one more in the 50s. And this is going back now. I mean, this would have been, 8 years ago, probably not, or 9 years ago. And it was a little choppy, but there was just a very big ocean swell coming on. A big southwesterly had moved in. And, I would have never fished this spot during the day because I would have been like, it's just one rock that is in the middle of nowhere in the sand. That's, 3 Toyota Tacomas stacked up. It's just not anywhere near the ledge. Something actually, the way I found this spot, even to go further back, is I was on my way, my little center console, my little 16-footer, and I was ripping out to go fish the ledge, and I had to pee so bad. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got 3.4 miles, I can make it. And I couldn't. So I stopped, and I had to pee. So I'm sitting there, I'm taking a pee, and I just happened to be looking over at my depth finder, and all of a sudden we just go over the tiniest little blip in the bottom, and they were stacked on this blip. I mean, dude, I ended up peeing on my leg because I'm trying to hit man and overboard on the spot, and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I ended up fishing it, and I did really well there. So now go back to when we lose this giant. So I got younger clients. They don't have a lot of experience striper fishing, but they wanted to go out to block, and they were game for the weather. They were hardy. So I was like, all right, let's go. Now, first drift, they double up, pop them both off within like a couple seconds.
On the structure? Or?
No, on the structure. They definitely got into it. So I was like, all right. And I had lighter leader too at the time, but I was like, you know what? It's gray and grumpy. Let me beef it up. So I went straight to the 80. I was like, whatever. Get rid of the 30. Let's put on 80. Got the long leaders. And we were fishing egg sinkers at the time because during the day I prefer egg sinkers. At nighttime I'll go heavy bank straight up and down.
So because they're stealthier? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. Just, I learned from fishing out there with Billy Sylvia, and we just fished egg sinkers during the day. So I think maybe to me it's more of a mental thing. I mean, I don't think the sinker shape matters as much, but I think that sometimes if they scope out, I can get people to set the lines to keep them near the bottom, and they don't hang as much on snags. So then, all right, I already know that, okay, there's some nice fish there. Go back around, and this girl, she hooks up, and it is screaming. So now the other one's got a little bit away from us, and that's how we broke them off, because there's a rubble pile that's not too far away, and it's not super big rocks, but it's enough they can get in there. So I'm like, all right, we're chasing this one, because you just know it's that type of day. So she's fighting it, and now, I mean, we must have drifted. I mean, it seems like it was forever, but maybe 15 minutes, which is a long time to be fighting a striper. Yeah. And I'm like, should I tighten up the drag? And I'm checking, I'm like, we'll just leave it. This thing comes up all of a sudden, and it's like one of those moments where the boat is in the trough of the swell, and the fish is above us. And I'm like, if I get my harpoon out and harpoon this thing, this girl will be on Time magazine. This thing is so big. And it went down, went up. She got it a little closer. I mean, this, we're talking 60s, high 60s, 70s, something like that. Massive. And I can see that it's just barely skin hooked. And it just didn't hold.
Oh.
And I did not have a long enough net.
Again, man, you need that 30-foot net?
After that, I have now on my boat the longest extension you can have on a net. I mean, the net I have is at least 12 and a half feet if I took it on the handle. So that was one. That bass...
Dude, that was in that era when, that was when the world record was caught. That was when Peter Viken had,
the next year, he got it. That was like... No, that was... he had previous, so he had actually caught that before. Yeah, he got that 2 70s in a row.
Viking, yeah. He had like a 77 and or 76 and a 77 or something like that.
Right.
And there was just whatever year class that was, there was enough of those fish. I mean, you can watch, if you pay attention to the striper spawning year classes, whenever you have a boom spawn and you put that 20 years down the road, it's just enough of those fish are out
Right.
there surviving that they can reach crazy sizes.
Yep.
So
So then there was that one, and then there is one other striper, and this one, again, probably not as big as that one, but easily in the 60-pound class. And this is totally different scenario, right? Not Hardy crew, bachelor party, drinking beers, everyone's hanging out. I'm fishing, local in Newport, and I'm going over this drift, and like, we're catching some fish here and there, and all of a sudden I'm like, all right, we're going to go. And we're fishing very light tackle now because, different scenario. It was a little bit shallower water at the time, so I was down with 20-pound fluoro, just light that day. And, again, we'd be catching smaller bass too, so a lot of the tackle was scaled down, the average size of the fish that we were catching, you only needed 20-pound fluoro.
You were set up to fail.
They were 28 inches, but these guys were happy and I was happy.
Yeah.
and Newport's the type of place though where you can there could always be.
I know, you never know.
One.
So you probably shouldn't have had the 20-pound fluoro. But that wasn't even the problem because we would have got this fish if they had listened. So, triple up, right? There's some bird activity. We ended up tripling up. One fish takes off, and I'm like, all right. I know instantly by the sound of that drag that fish is big. And I'm like, hey, just take your time. The other fish ended up being a bluefish and like a 24-inch striper. Of course, they tangle themselves. They can barely stand, let alone walk. So they get tangled. I'm dealing with that, and I'm like, I keep checking over. I'm like, hey, let me know when you get that fish close. I'll help you, and I'll come net it. I'm just trying to make sure the other two don't get hurt. They have their fish close. So I'm dealing with this. I got the blue fish over there, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I had been checking in like every 2 minutes, and I was like, 2 minutes went by, and I didn't check in. So I turn around, and I go, hey, let me know when you, and I look, and he's trying to boat flip this fish in. So the GL2 now is bent to the hill. It's into the handle. I'm thinking the rod's going to blow up. He only gets the fish's head about this far to the water before it explodes the line. So now the fish kind of glides out away from the boat. But you know how if they've been fighting him on light tackle, so he's kind of tired and he's just sitting there on the surface.
Oh yeah.
And, I don't have a landing net anywhere close. And now this is early in my guiding career, and this is would be the biggest fish that the boat had ever landed. This is a PB fish. And I just remember looking at the fish, and I just had to make a decision. And as fast as I could go, I launched myself off the side of the boat, and I dove on top of the fish. So now I am on top of this fish. I have it between my legs, and I'm trying to work my hands. I'm squeezing it. It is stabbing me with its pectoral fin in my chest. And I went to go, and as soon as I jumped on it, it came back to life, and I couldn't get my hands in its mouth, and it just wiggled free, and I lost it. They thought it was great, and I was about ready to cry. I was like, dude, you guys don't even understand. So, yeah, Cheech, there you go. You got it all.
Wow.
You told us a story about one last year that you missed, where you said it had it was following the dock, knocked the dock out of the water, and you said the proportions of the fish made the dock, which is a 9-inch long topwater. You said it looked like a Rebel jumping minnow, which is a 3-inch long topwater.
I have seen some absolutely huge fish. One of Greg Knight, his son Cooper, when he came one time on a charter, and I'll never forget this. Cooper fought this fish beautifully. Ended up being 53 pounds. He's in the bow, and same thing. His dad was doubled up, and I'm like, Cooper, just fight that fish. When you get it close, let me know. And he goes, Captain Rob, I think the shark's gonna eat my fish. And I'm like, oh no. So I go up there, and I have a long net now, so no problems with that. I go up, and I'm looking at Cooper's fish, which ended up being 53 pounds, and I look underneath it is another striper, and it is so big I can see the individual scales on the back of its head. It made this 53-pounder look small. I literally, after my charters were done for the day, I went back to that spot, and I fished 9 rods with eels drifting over that for the rest of the night, and I caught nothing. But I was convinced that I was going to find that fish again.
Dude, that's like that story. Did you ever read Night Tides? The story, the Billy the Greek book?
No.
He told a story where he was up on a bridge, and he was fishing, and he saw a giant fish. He thought it was going to be a 50-pound fish. Flipped the bucktail to it, and then what he thought was a 30-pound fish came and ate it. So he lands that fish, fishing the bridges of Long Island, gets that in. That's 53 pounds. And he's like left wondering how the hell big was that one that didn't eat?
That perspective is what will haunt you in and of itself.
It keeps you coming back.
Yeah.
You know?
I had an experience like that last year. I caught my personal best, and the next fish to eat on the very next drift, it looked like it was built by like one of your buddies that likes to mess with you, like a mechanical striper that was too big to process. And I saw the whole thing. She ate. I stuck her. She came up, like got half of her body out of the water, thrashing, and then rolled and showed me everything. And I had just landed my biggest striper to date, and it made it look like a 25-pound fish. And I was like stuttering, I was shaking, and I looked at my buddy that I was fishing with, and I'm like, he goes, oh yeah, that happens all the time down here. He's like, there's some fish you just can't stop. I'm like, what? I got to do this again.
Rob, man, so when we met, you were a surf guy, dude, primarily.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah, and that's you worked at the Saltwater Edge.
I did. Yeah.
I think that was the first. So I met you at Striper Fest, maybe like officially. First time I saw you, I was stopping in the Saltwater Edge, I think, buy some custom plugs or something, and you like emerged from some sort of cellar where you'd been sleeping off the surf fishing the night before.
See, I thought you were a FedEx driver before you got into fishing. At least that's what your buddy Wilson told me. Castaway reference. Had to get that in there.
Castaway.
Oh, I get it. That's
A little slow, Jimmy.
I mean, look I could have been running somewhere. Yeah, no, I did. I surf fished. I mean, I started working at the Saltwater Edge in like 2003, I think. So way back.
oh yeah, man.
Yep. In fact, I'll never forget when I first went down there, I met Iron Mike Everin, and he literally didn't know me from a hole in the wall and said, here's a Van Stahl custom rod and some plugs. He's like, here, I'll go drop you off, and dropped me off from Brenton Point. It was a blitz of like 15 to 20 pound stripers, smoked them, and then let me return his gear after.
Iron Mike was always very generous with information. He was like very.
And he has every single lure known to man. I mean, in multiples. That's how I learned how to buy in multiples. Because there'd be times where, I'd be on a good bite and I needed a all black Super Strike bottle plug, and no one had them. You call Iron Mike, he had one to spare.
We just talked about buying in multiples before we started recording. I'd lost my last 6.8 HUD, rate of fall 12, and Rob goes, why did you only have one?
No. If you cast it and you almost lose it, you go home that night and then you have to buy another one just because there was a possibility. So now you have to back up the other four that you had ready to go.
It's a sickness.
You never stop learning.
So your surf exploits, has that helped you as a guide fishing from a boat? Is there a correlation between what you learned in the surf and wetsuiting versus what you figured out by boat?
A little bit. I mean, I would say definitely like some of the techniques and just, understanding how to read the water. But then a lot of the stuff that I learned from boat, being just a crazy surf fisherman, I learned from other captains. Like a lot of the stuff, you take Corey Petrazik forever. He was like the original guy to be fishing the dock. I mean, he was fishing jumping minnows before there was docks. And I think Joel ended up finding the dock based on a need to, hey, what if we had a jumping minnow that was bigger? And it was the closest thing to it. I mean, a jumping minnow to this day, that thing will catch all the time. I mean, it's an amazing lure. I learned how to, live bait fish and fish bunker from Billy Sylvia. And, I guess you could take like all the fishing I did when I was a kid. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to get left on Fry Island and Sebago. So, I mean, I had a canoe and I had a tent and I had to be home before it got dark if I wanted to eat. My grandparents would just let me fish and wander. I mean, it was awesome. So I would just literally wake up every morning and go fishing. So you take all of that and put it in a big pot and stir it around and, that's what you got. I mean, the good thing is you always learn something from any type of fishing you do. I mean, even, whether it's largemouth fishing, there's a little clue in there that might lead back to striper fishing.
There's a lot of crossover in fishing experience, if you look for it, if you know where to look for it. And it's funny, man, you talk about Sebago, and like you are one of those guys that strikes me as like, you ask, what's your favorite fish? And it's like, whatever I'm going fishing for today.
That's it. If it has to be koi in a pond in the back of my house, then that's what it will be.
I've seen you get almost as excited over like a big panfish as I've seen you get excited when your rod doubles over with a bluefin on it, man. So
love my panfish.
But we had some long phone calls this winter about big crappie.
Dude, giant crappie. I mean, I finally cracked somewhat of a code and got on them this year.
It's the best. Like, and being that kind of a like multi-species, fishing for everything does make you better at the specific at everything. I think. You know?
Yeah. You know, it's better to learn how to do all different facets of fishing. You know, because there are so many different kinds. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out. And I know there's guys that do it, is like, you know, guys that fish the Great Lakes or guys that fish down in the Chesapeake of planer boards and eels. Like, how can I adapt that up here to, you know, fishing bunker or fishing planer boards with eels? Like, you know, I got planer boards. I mess around with them. I'm not perfect at it yet, but we'll hone it in. I mean, I think it's a cool way to really spread out. And, you know, I look at it as like, okay, I see this planer board. Man, that thing gets over really far. I could actually fish some shallow structure that I know is holding fish without running them over. Maybe I can get them a couple more passes.
It's a way to be more precise. I mean, especially with the electronics now, being able to see so far out to the left and right.
Yeah, it gets baits where your boat won't go.
Right, exactly. Or even if I just don't want to put my boat over them.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's the stealth factor too.
So when did you begin Newport Sport Fishing Charters?
So
Your fiberglass rock is what you used to call it.
Yeah, the fiberglass rock. I want to say, let's see, I just renewed my captain's license again, so that's going to be probably 9 years ago. Jeez.
Goes by fast, man.
It does go by fast. Yeah, so we've been doing it for 9 years.
See, I can't believe you've done as much as you've done in only 9 years, dude. How many tournaments that you've won? The Boston Big Game Shark Tournament, right?
Yep, we got that.
Fluke till you
was
puke.
in Newport,
Yeah.
That's a fun tournament.
That
Fluke
was.
Puke's a fun tournament. A lot of people fish that.
I know. I'm sad that they're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, that was fun. That was
I
my
needed
first
that lunch money.
my first tournament experience, I believe, was not counting the little rod and gun club ones, but
Didn't you win with biggest dogfish?
I won the trash fish. I won the shit fish.
Trash fish.
Won me like almost $4,000.
Cheech is you're a magnet for the biggest dogfish, man. I think every party
I
boat
catch
trip I've
nothing
been
but
on.
trash all the time, and I love it.
Yeah, actually, I had I had a really killer crew of my clients that wanted to fish fluke to puke. So the first year that we did really well, I mean, hats off to those guys. You know, they were like, you know, let's. I was like, let's go to the shoals, and so that's what we did. We went to the shoals, and
Wow.
I mean, the amount of fluke that these guys caught to really do well in the tournament is. They only had 2.5 hours to fish, right? Because I'm limited by speed with my boat. So I was like, we have a tight window. I mean, and everyone on that crew had a fish over 9, you know, that day.
Wow.
I mean, and we just caught as many big ones as we did, and that was it. Quick turnaround and drove right back.
That's awesome.
Now, the year that we weren't able to go to Nantucket, but we did place and we did win some money, will say this sticks out, is the guy that caught the winning fluke. It probably would have been a little bit bigger because I kept it alive, and when I went to go weigh it in, when I opened the live well, there was 3 giant squid that it had puked up. So we did miss by a few ounces. But the fashion that he caught it just leads me to believe that sometimes you can overthink things. Is what the gentleman in particular, we'll just keep his name Gentleman, just because he got a little seasick, and they were a little swelly out that day. And I was really grinding this one spot that I knew had a couple giants in it, but they were just tough to get to eat. So he woke up all of a sudden, decided it was time to fish. He had a squid strip on the rail that he had cut that morning that is now squid jerky. And I mean the stiffest of squid jerky. He somehow gets the hook through it, drops it down with the fluke spoon, about halfway through the drift, yanks on a fish, which I thought at the time was 10, reels it up, I net it, put it in the live well. He unhooks his squid jerky, throws it in the water, puts his rod away, and goes right back to sleep. And that was it.
I've had that experience. I've had a similar experience. This was I was going on the Hell and H. Cheech was supposed to go, couldn't go. He goes, I'm sending a replacement. So his replacement was not a very experienced fisherman.
Very experienced fisherman, just not very good at it. Not very polished, we'll say.
So I'm going to call him Sir Tangleslot, hoping that he doesn't listen to this. Great guy. But tangled me all day long next to me. Caught dogfish one after another. Broke the boat's rental rod on trying to swing like a a giant spiny dogfish, which then like you had to kind of duck and cover when it was coming
Didn't
over.
have a cooler, putting his
Spines out.
fluke in a Stop and Shop bag until Jimmy was like, put your fluke in my cooler, please.
So he's sitting there like back against the rail, just kind of relaxing like this. And then all of a sudden you see him hook up and he's like, it might be another dog, comes in 15-pound fluke, maybe 14-pound fluke. One of the biggest ones I've ever seen. And it's one of those fluke, you see them out on the shoals where they only get so long. They get like up to 32 inches long. But then, this thing was as thick as a telephone book. It was that thick. It was
A massive fish.
I might have started
incredible
turning
to
a
look
little
at.
green.
And it was right next. I was a lot green. I was like openly green. But like he'd blown up a rental rod in my face. He'd almost stabbed me with a dogfish. And he catches a fluke that I could only dream of catching. And I wasn't at all happy for him.
You would think that's just like beginner's luck, that like, whatever, but that's his MO like all the time. So I call him like the shittiest best fisherman I know, or the best shittiest fisherman I know, because he's always having success pulling a great fish out of a sequence of events where you're like, this guy's not going to catch anything, and he's the one that ends up wowing you.
His bait
I
was,
fluke fished with him one other time, and he
bait
caught
was
a
in the water.
13-pounder. Cheech was there for
There
that.
you go.
you know why? Because he just does less. Sometimes you just have to do less.
I swear.
He doesn't jig. He sits there relaxed. There's no tension in the line. Fish don't even know.
This year at the shoals, I'm skipping the popcorn rig. I'm skipping the jigs. I'm just doing a giant strip bait, and I'm just drifting it on the bottom until the biggest fluke comes by and eats it. Like I'm going bare basics. I got to get a 12-pounder.
Until your 14th dogfish. We tried to live mackerel one time out in the shoals.
It was automatic 6-pounders. You
6
dropped
and
it to the
7
bottom,
pounders,
you
no
have a
problem.
6
But it was
pounder.
like, you would think we're gonna catch the biggest fluke down there. We caught the fastest ones.
Maybe you need to get some like east of Chatham big mackerel.
I want to bring I want to fish like a 20-inch live eel for them. That's something I would like to try for fluke. Maybe do a tandem rig. We're getting very hypothetical here.
Yeah.
But that's what it's all about, man. I mean, that's probably at some point your live chumming was a hypothetical. Like, when did you think of bringing that up here?
I saw the Florida boys doing it.
Yeah.
I was like, that works.
Mm-hmm.
And when the first time you tried it, was it like instant success, or did it take a while? Like, did you have to stick with it to finally get it to pay off? Or
Oh no. I mean, I knew there was a whole pile of fish sitting right on this one spot, and I was like, let's see what happens if we throw a bunch of bunker on there. Oh boy.
So did you already have like the side imaging sonar when you did you
Yes.
get those at the same time? Or?
Same time.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, once I got side imaging, then getting bunker was just easy. Yeah, I mean, it made a huge difference, right? Like before, the few that I would get, there's no way I could live chum. You know what I mean? I didn't have the ability. I mean, unless they were flipping on the surface, and sometimes you'd get lucky, and they were that way, and they're so thick that you just can't miss. But
Yeah.
being able to black out your live well, then you can experiment, and yeah, it's awesome.
Dude, and your live well can hold up to 100 baits, right?
Yep, custom made live well, made a mold,
How many gallons?
100 gallons.
Oval?
Oval.
Lovely. 100 gallons, Jesus.
Yeah, and that that being able to use that side imaging sonar helps you not only with stripers. I mean, it helps you be one of the early guys out to the tuna grounds, man.
Yeah, I mean, literally, you can mark tuna with side imaging. It's crazy. Once you get it dialed in and just mess around with your settings, you can see bait. I mean, and that's running, at cruise speed for me, which is 16 knots,
And that's a big part of your season too. Is you will, I guess at the end of the striper season in the summer, striper season.
I
But
mix it in. A lot of it depends on just where are the tuna. You know what I mean? For the past couple of years, they, first they were kind of Coimbra, now being more off Rhode Island Sound. But it's something that it can be hard to plan ahead for, just because they are such strange creatures and unpredictable. I mean, they could go right past Rhode Island and end up only in Chatham, or they could go up and summer off of Gloucester. I mean, we've seen everything in between, years. I mean, remember the years that they were in the dump really thick,
Yeah.
and that was where the concentrations were. I mean, because it's unique that Rhode Island Sound is just such a big area. It's so big. That point between Montauk and the Vineyard and that whole 20 and 30 fathom curve, I mean, it is just a massive, massive area with, there you got Cox's Ledge, you got the Claw. There are some like structure points and little bowls, but there, there's just so many minute places that they can be. Whereas, when I look at the Cape, I mean, it might be bigger, but like, you come down and you got Stellwagen, you got the Backside, you got Jeffries. So there's like those definitive points that you can, kind of go and check. It doesn't seem as vast. I mean, when you get to Rhode Island Sound, I mean, they could be 5 miles outside of Newport. They could be 40 miles outside of Newport. They could be right next to the block, and they change in a day.
And you could be cruising a mile away from the mother lode and not even know.
And just like when we found them that in the summertime last year, when they kind of thought the tuna bite had dried up, they were just north of the dump a little ways. Kind of short of the fingers, but not really. And there was just that giant pod of tuna that were sitting there with those whales.
Yeah, and you tipped us off on that bite, and you said that you had been a reliable bite a little bit closer to home for you, and that dried up, so you just kept going and going and going. Then you said you finally found just a giant pile of whales.
I had clients on board. They don't take no for an answer, so it was like, I'm just gonna drive till we run out of gas. I mean, I'm gonna find something somewhere. And it was just a pile of fish. In fact, the funny thing is the day that you guys went that you didn't catch, you had all albies there, but then you found those ones by that high flyer.
Yeah.
When you filmed that albie school and you were looking down at the albies, if you look past the albies, you can see, if you should re-look at that footage, there was tuna underneath flashing on their sides. There was bluefin in there, but there was just so many albies.
That was the craziest. So the first day before we filmed that, we went out and you were out there that day, and I think Chris and I both dropped you. We saw you out there. You dropped, immediately hooked up with albies. Chris and I dropped, hooked up with albies. Then second drop, I had the tuna. I hooked up to a tuna, and it was just a mixed bag that day. That day it was like maybe 8 albies to every 1 tuna.
Yeah.
But then the second day was like 40 albies to 1 tuna.
They just weren't firing. They were just down there, but they just weren't eating. Because even the day before that, it had been better tuna fish and different sizes. I mean, there were the sizes in there where.
You had a 55-inch, didn't you?
55-inch fish.
I love that. That vertical jig bite, dude. I could do that.
Well, you guys did hook a big one that day that you were out there.
I'm not going to discuss who lost it or whose fault it was.
I know you and Chris switched the rod off. There was some heat on that.
Yeah. I'm not willing to talk about that one yet.
Tuna are such maddening creatures. I mean, it's a fish that can swim across the Atlantic in like 3 days, and they can be, if you're looking for them, they could be anywhere from the canyons to a mile offshore, going through the canal. Who knows?
That's right.
It's crazy.
And you caught just this last season. You caught your biggest ever bluefin on your boat, right?
So that 118 fish that we caught with when Ralph and Lou and Seth and Mike. Those guys had come on the boat, and that fish was big. It was real big. I mean, it was definitely different, because most of the fights, I mean, if fish that are over 100 inches, you're talking an hour and a half, maybe an hour, something like that. Yeah, I mean, what was the one that you got when we were playing cards with Julie this year? I think that was like a 100-incher. Yeah,
and that was, I want to say that was 45 minutes.
Yeah, this fish just would not come up. And I just kept tightening the drag. And then I started making people hold on to the spool.
That's what you said. You said the rod was at such a horrific angle. Didn't it melt the guides or something? Or melt the...
Towards the end, Lou had melted the gloves, and he had been putting his hand on the spool. He actually did a great job fighting the fish, because I was like, look, the fish has been down now for the better part of an hour and a half, and we're already an hour and a half past, so we're 3+ hours. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we got him hooked pretty well in the jaw. We got to try to get him up. And he just would not come up. He was just staying at 80 feet. And just, even that, we had around 60 pounds of drag on him. I mean, I just wanted him to put a little extra pressure. And he did perfect. I mean, Lou, great angler. And he knew when to, palm it with a little encouragement. When he, you get a little, and I'm like, just do it. I don't care if we break it off.
It's got to hit a point where it's like
either off, now we can at least get another bait out and try again. I was like,
lose them or get them.
That's right. Let's just do it. And he did. He played that thing perfectly. And I'll never forget when that thing came up and you saw its head, when it was on that far. In fact, if you ever look, there's a video that they have of it, that they took of it. The fish was so big on its first initial pass when I thought I had a shot. I thought I could, he looked closer than he was because he was so big. So I went to chuck the harpoon, but I held on to the back of it and I put my arm all the way in the water and I was like, nope, And I pulled it right back out, and I was like, dude, that thing is big.
I saw that video. It was like a check swing in baseball.
Check swing, that's right. I was like, nope, that's optical illusion.
Yep.
Don't let it go.
You had the right crew for that fish, though. I mean, all those guys are extremely experienced big game anglers.
You would have been fine. It's just a fish. Just reel it in.
My thanks.
It takes everything to go right when you hook the right one. And the craziest thing about tuna is they can, even in the same size class, they just different personalities to fish. Like, you'll catch a devilfish that just kills you, and you get it in, and you're like, that's all you are. Like, you're only 200 pounds, and you just beat the crap out of me, and then you'll catch a 600 pounder, and it's like, oh, I thought you were 200 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
You're actually fat and big.
Yep. Biggest thing is just trust your connections and your rigging. Go over all the detail stuff ahead of time, so that when it comes down to it, if you need to apply heat, you're not afraid to apply heat. Know what the limits of your gear are, and you'll be fine.
Man, so we're on the cusp of your saltwater season starting. And still plenty of largemouth bass fishing ahead. How long does this pre-spawn thing usually go for you? It's pre-spawn bite.
About until the boat gets in the water, then it's go time.
Kind of a hard stop.
I try to maximize it as much as I can. But yeah, once a boat goes in April 20th, it's quick scout trip, make sure the TOG are doing what they're supposed to, then charters, and it's full on. I mean, we did over 300 trips last year, so yeah. That's when I start walking into Dunkin' Donuts, and I keep asking the person behind me, what did you say? And they're like, I didn't say anything. And I'm like,
Dunkin', what about Maz? I thought Maz was the spot.
Depends. Dunkin' is the midday coffee, because it's just close proximity to the boat. Yeah, Maz is 4 a.m. because you can get coffee and a Sharice and cheese roll, and that really just sets the tone of the day.
See, I wish we don't have any 24-hour breakfast places on the Cape. We don't have any 24-hour anything on the Cape. If something stays open past 9, we're lucky.
Yeah, even the 24-hour chains aren't open 24 hours on the Cape. It's annoying.
What about Pie in the Sky? Didn't that place used to stay open a little?
It was a
later?
diner. You're talking about the diner. It's
maybe.
now was talk of the town. I forget what it was, but you used to come and surf fish and then hit that diner.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Do you still surf fish at all?
I do when I can, but I mean, honestly, sometimes these days, if I get a chance, I might go take an hour and go cast for largemouth instead of surf fish. But I will. I mean, I try to. It just depends on the workload these days and how it's going. Actually, if it's like I have to cancel charters and we get pre-hurricane, heavy southwest, gray and grumpy, I'm definitely in the surf. I'm throwing bucktails.
Gray and grumpy was I never heard that term until I walked into the saltwater edge. And all you guys, I walked in, I was like, is there any fishing around Newport? And one of you guys looked out the window and goes, it's gray and grumpy out. You better hit the,
That's right.
Go down to...
gray, grumpy, heavy southwest, because Rhode Island doesn't have huge tides. So wind is a super important thing because you get long shore currents. So the harder the surf beats on the shore, shoves that water down, and there you go.
But it's funny, man. Like you say, you're not surf fishing as much. If you have the time now, you're going to go largemouth bass fishing. That's the new challenge. You know what I mean? That's what's the mark you're looking for right now for largemouth?
8 pounds, dude.
8 pounds.
I'm still trying to remember. We got to have a bet next year. $1,000 a head. That's biggest fish.
I'll just hand it to you now.
Dude, if your line's in the water, you can get lucky.
I've got one, I think, see, we could talk about unweighed fish all day. I have one I suspect is near or exceeding 8 pounds. He's got one he thinks is over 9 pounds. And we've both studied.
Over 9.
You don't know it was
I
over
do.
9. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah.
But we've looked
we can
at
make
these.
the contest. We'll make it a $500 buy-in between the three of us. And if your fish doesn't go over 7 pounds, no one wins, and it carries over to the next year.
I'll do that.
I
will do that. Bet.
I like that.
We've got a witness.
Yeah.
So.
See, now it's on. It's live.
Jack, you're the witness.
Yep. I love chasing big largemouth, but I haven't put hands on the two, anything close to the two biggest I have, and since I started swimbait fishing. Imagine that.
Dude, spinner baits is what I caught my biggest one on. I used to catch all my big bass on spinner baits, and now
Don't
I'm
even
all
throw
in.
them anymore.
I don't even throw them. They sit and they collect
work.
dust.
Jigs.
Proves that to me. Shane, for anyone that doesn't know,
I love
Shane
Bo.
Cucalo, my mate. Yep, also very avid bass fisherman, and I've known him, since we were growing up. I mean,
He's the one in the banana suit and all your Instagram
he
photos.
always has the banana suit. He wants everyone to know that bananas are good to have on your boat. Please don't think they're not. It's a great snack. If the wrapper falls into the water, it's biodegradable.
Potassium. Dude.
Potassium.
It's
You
good
won't
roughage.
cramp up while you're reeling in that tuna fish or
Exactly.
whatever it is. You know, I mean, literally, look at if a captain is blaming fruit on the fishing, it's just that's not good.
No.
I'm just saying that right now. That is not good.
I've never bought into that. I always thought that was funny.
I'm extremely superstitious, so I definitely buy into it. I check ingredients on protein bars and shit. I do not want any bananas in my
How long do
bloodstream.
they have to pass through the system? You know, there's like a 48-hour rule for you.
Oh yeah, no, I've got to get them all cleared out.
I walked onto a boat with a guy that was super superstitious with the whole banana thing, and he was horrified to not only find bananas, but banana bread. He's like, the banana has spawned into bread form. We're in so much trouble.
Jimmy, the day you caught the tuna last year, I was eating bananas all day that day.
I think Bo had his banana suit on for a little bit. Oh,
He
yeah.
did. He did. So going back to Bo, so he proves to me time and time again, no matter, you know, what fancy swim bait or whatever I'm using, he will put on his custom tweaked spinner bait. You know, he gets spinner baits and tweaks them with bigger blades and stuff, and he'll smash a giant like a 6, 7. You know, it's just, but that's his confidence bait. And you know what? At the end of the day, no matter what you're fishing with, it's confidence, right?
If you believe in it, you're fishing it a little bit better. You're paying a little more attention to what it's doing. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
And you get in a feel like, you know, I know if I got that, you know, HUD tail thumping, that's the speed that's going to entice a bite. And I know, like, when I'm walking a dock, exactly how I like that plug to zigzag, and I know that's how I'm gonna get a bite. I know if I cast a bucktail, I have a very specific cadence on how I fish a bucktail, and I know that is gonna get a bite.
You can feel it. You feel it coming.
You just know. You just know.
Confidence is such a huge part of it. And not only that, but everybody's like, oh, well, I catch most of my big fish on this. Well, dummy, you've got that lure tied on 85% of the time because of how confident and comfortable you are with it.
And if you want to get confidence in new lures, if it's slow, don't start changing your lures because that's the worst time to do it. Do it when it's really good, and then start trying different lures.
That's how
That
you
was
will
your
write
advice
off
for-
an entire, you know, type of lure.
That's right.
Well, literally,
This thing sucks.
the biggest 2 bass that I've ever put hands on, right? One I did get on a scale, it was 7.5 pounds. You know how you talk to yourself when you're out fishing, like, you know, by yourself? I'm in a kayak that I had just gotten. It was my first kayak. And I was catching one dink after another, throwing a spinner bait, throwing a swim jig. And I literally looked in my box. And I remember from like the, you know, the Jimmy Houston days where they used to throw the jig and peg. I looked at this thing and I just had some trailers that got sent into the office that nobody wanted that would be a good trailer for a jig. And I said to myself, I'm like, I'm going to tie one of these stupid effing things on that I've never caught a fish on, that I've only seen catch fish on TV, and throw it into this timber here. So I throw it in there, and I'm like, wow, that felt like a bite. I set the hook thinking it was going to be the timber I just threw into, and I felt head shakes. 7.5 pounds on the scale. The next day, a bigger one, same shoreline, throwing a jig, a stupid thing that I've never caught a fish on, and I fell in love with jigs, and I fished those till I met Mr. Swimbait.
Many people bought the banjo lure just because of something like that.
The banjo lure is fantastic, man. I still have the VHS tape. I still fish it once in a while. So, but Rob, man, thank you so much for coming on and joining us. What a great first podcast for us to have on here. If you want to connect with Rob, you can find him on Instagram at Newport Sportfishing, correct?
Newport Sportfishing Charters.
On
correct?
Instagram, yep. Or online at nsfcharters.com. And
Nancy Sam Frank Charters.com.
Rob, man, thank you very much, dude.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks for coming on today, man.
All right, let's go convince Chris to let us go fish for largemouth the rest of the day.
He's
Come
on vacation, man. We're out of here.